Right, class, we're going to start with the basics. This is your BCD. This one is an integrated BCD because the first thing you want to do when you get a BCD that's a rental, you want to figure out how to get rid of your weights. On this one, we have integrated weight pockets. As you can see, you put your weights in the pocket, slide them in, strap them in place. If you cannot figure out how to get weights out of your BC, do not put them in your BC because you may actually need a weight belt instead. So, that being said, integrated pockets, and that's what we're going to use as this BC. Part 2 on this BC is you have a low pressure inflator. We'll go over to how to use that later, but what you need to know right now is this is the valve that we're going to attach the low pressure inflator hose to. Alright? Now, on the back of this BC, it has the locking belts. What we're going to do is come over here to this tank. We're going to take the cap off the tank. Now, you see on the valve right here, the front of it, that little hole right there is where we're going to connect to the air supply for your regulators. This is air to hair. So when I turn on that valve, it should be blowing on the back of your head. Air to hair. If you can get air to hair right, everything else gets easy. Okay? So we're going to take this BC and we're going to slide it down over the tank. Shimmy, shimmy, shake. That's the easy way to do it. Alright. Now we got that over the tank. That's in place. Fine job. Now, you're going to take the straps on the back. Give them a good wiggle. Give them a good wiggle. And that's going to tighten that down. Alright? Then you're going to grab it by the spring right here. Pull that strap all the way out. And you're going to lock it closed around that. Okay? Now, one of the things I forgot to mention, you want this wet before you put it on the tank. And the reason being is nylon stretches when it's wet. So you don't want to put this on here dry, get it all locked in place, get in the water, and then have that stretch out, and your tank's loose and you lose it. Okay? So now we have that all straight. We have air to hair. So we have the valve on the tank blowing into the back of your head. I like to say you want to blow a hole in the back of your head. It's easier to remember for me. Alright? Now what we need is a regulator. Here is your basic setup for a regulator. This centerpiece right here is your stage 1. That's what brings the pressure down from the tank to a manageable rate. And you can see right here, undo this valve, is the dust cap. That dust cap protects all the important parts inside this valve. So always remember to keep your dust cap on unless it's on the tank itself. Okay? Here, usually your black hose, that is going to be your stage 2. This is your stage 2 regulator. This is your stage 1 regulator. Alright, this is the one you normally breathe out of all the time. Over here, normally it is a yellow. This is your alternate air source, or octo. Okay? It's also a regulator, just like your stage 1. It's usually not as expensive and not as high dollar. It's just the basics so that you can breathe in case of an emergency. Alright? On the other side of the regulator, we have our SPG. That is our gauge setup. Okay? That's going to read pressure. That's going to read depth. And this one has a built-in compass on it. Okay? So that's your SPG, your gauge. This random hose over here, this is the one that's also very important. This is your low pressure inflator hose. Okay? And I showed you what goes just a little while ago. We're going to go over it again right now. Because we're going to step over here. We have air to hair. Alright? I like to do this from behind the tank. And here's why. Because your regs, your breathing, always goes on your right. So if I hold those in my right hand, and I hold everything else in my left hand, you see that? My valve is automatically right. So I'm going to lower that down. and I'm going to tighten this nut on the back just loosely. And you can see where the valve to the air tank is matching up with the intake on my regulator. And you're going to tighten that down. Just snug. Don't kill it. Because when you put that 3000 PSI on there, you'll never get it off. Okay? So you got that snug? Fantastic. Now what we're going to do, that low pressure inflator hose that we talked about. It's got a little slide nut. Pull it back. See how that works? Okay. So you're going to take your low pressure inflator and you're going to attach your low pressure inflator line to it, just like so. See that? Nice and tight. Then you're going to put both of those underneath this Velcro. There you go. So now, technically we're all put together. And now what we want to do is check our air pressure. Okay? To do that, what we're going to do, set the gauge where we can see it. Before you turn your air on, you're going to take your regulator. You're going to hold down the purge button on the regulator. Again, you don't have to kill it, just hold it. Alright? Now, reach over and slowly turn the gas on. It's going to whistle. There you go. Now you can let go of the regulator. There you go. Let that go. Now, check your pressure. What does it read? We want you to have, say, between 2,000 and 3,000 PSI. Okay? That's basically a full tank. Perfect. Alright, we're going to put that back down. Your gear is now assembled. Except for what? We talked about aware. We want to be aware of all our stuff and where it goes. We don't want it dragging through the reef. So the next step is take your octo. Find your octo keeper. See, usually they're orange, red, purple, blue, black. You're going to attach that. There you go. Just like that. Voila. Now, that's not going to drag on the reef. Now you're going to come over and you're going to do the same thing to your regulator. I'm sorry, to your SPG, your gauges. You're going to find the clip. If there's no clip, you're going to insert it in the pocket in your BCD. Because you don't want that dragging. It's the #1 cause of damage to your SPG is dragging it along the ground. Now, the last step, just to make sure we've got air, we're attached, everything's in, we know how to get our weights in, we know how to get our weights out. There's a handle right here in this particular BC. Most of them have it. Grab that handle and you're going to give that a shake. Does your tank fall out? No? Then you did a good job. Now the last thing to remember, never ever ever leave a tank standing up with all your gear on it or any other time. You want to take and lay that down on its back. So all the gear is sitting up here. You don't want to lay the tank on all your gear. This stuff's expensive. Alright? So you just lay it back down and voila. Now you're a professional at assembling your gear. I want to see you do it 5 more times. Bye!